my name is Joseph Harden, and today I will be interviewing
Yulia Bowen.
I am a senior of Liberty High, and
I am a resident of Louisiana, originally born in Ukraine.
This interview is for the story map competition nationwide. And thank you for taking the time to meet me today.
My pleasure.
I acknowledge that some of the questions may be sensitive, and you have the right to not answer if you do feel so. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. What was life like growing up in Ukraine?
I lived in the northwest part of Ukraine, in a village, and in a big family, and I lived there for my first 10 years, and it was there was much hardships for my parents raising us, but as a child I was protected from most of it, so I didn't feel the stress of things as much, because my family was religious. We were Christian, and we were born in a Soviet Union. I was born in the Soviet Union times, and up until Soviet Union fell apart, we felt the stresses from the outside, even as kids. We were picked on, and the teachers had journals for each of us to keep track of us and record things. But that fell apart in 1991, and legally they could not do that anymore. So, but a lot of that feeling towards people of religion and people who had possibly relatives in the West, that stuck around for a while. But other than that, just living and growing up in a village, there's fun parts and happy parts and happy days, and there was challenging and hard days as well.
Yeah. I could only imagine how bad it got with the Soviet Union and the treatment. So yeah.
Yeah. It was worse for our parents and grandparents as things were exposed, and the further away we got from times of Stalin, and things began to improve, of course, but I was born at the end of it, where things, that people started to see differently and see the Western values and appreciate them more. Of course, living in a village, that information and that sentiment came later than maybe the bigger cities that were advanced in getting information and getting to know things about the West and the United States and our values and advancements. But as the population was open and information was being poured in, the more and more people began to lose their old-time sentiment for you can say tyranny, because there's the people who were believed in communism and that idea, they justified that poor treatment of minorities, people of different religions. So, but eventually it came to our village too. Even after we moved out to United States, and as some of the cousins that lived in the same village and went to the school, same school we did, they said that they met the old-time teachers and they apologized. They said, that's just how we were raised, that's just how we saw things, but we apologize for, they would harass and intimidate and pick on the children from religious families, whatever the religion was. So, but we moved to the United States in 1995. Ukraine has become independent by that time. independent country, and it started to move away from more and more, and even more after we left, we noticed that they want to be like the West. They don't want to go backward, and they want to be independent. They want to be part of Europe and have the same values and you know, not traditions. Traditions remain, but the same values and goals and standards as the West. So that's where they're still at. Yes, as a country, Ukraine.
Okay, that's nice to hear. Let's see, how do you feel about the community here in Baton Rouge since you moved?
In Baton Rouge community, it's such a vast question. Which part of community? We have entered into the homeschool community. That's became our biggest community, and it has been quite a resource and a wealth of information and resources and friendships, and we really enjoy that, and we enjoy the abundance of schooling options in the state of Louisiana and in Baton Rouge. There's so many various different access to education, and even such a great variety in homeschooling for us, which we chose to do. So we appreciate that as a family, and we have been accepted and welcomed, and we grew and learned so much being part of it.
That's good to know. What are your thoughts about Russia's reasoning for starting the war?
Russia's reasoning, the one they tell on the news, or the actual, the behind the scenes? Russia's reasoning, we can look at, you can judge a person's motive based on their action. And based on their action, they have been pillaging and robbing and stealing and destroying not just Ukraine. Ukraine is, is just in their lineup. It happened in Georgia. It happened they did it in Syria, Georgia, some of the Tajikistan, I think, and they use the same method there. They come in. They will choose some channels, local channels. They spread their information. They want the people divided, and they want a group to favor them, to favor Russia, to favor their maybe umbrella or coverage or access to Russia, which is a big country. And they will start a device, gather a mob of people that will start to retaliate against government and start these uprisings, and they will take over local governments in cities, start with first. And that's exactly what they did in Ukraine. They did it on the east in Donbass. And I believe since 2012, in 2014 they took Crimea and a chunk of Donbass area, and their reasoning, they want access, they need access to the Black Sea. They don't want to have to pay Ukraine for their gas pipes going through Ukraine. And they thought that, before they become part of NATO, before they join with the West officially, that they need to go in and take what they want and what they need. And that's how I see it, and weaken that country so they can be stronger. So they take what they have. I mean, they're taking key areas. I mean, they did think they could take Kyiv, the capital, and that the Ukrainian president will run. And they were shocked and surprised when that didn't happen. So they have to fight this war and fight for things that they didn't maybe plan on initially. They probably thought they're gonna take it much easier because they weren't as prepared, and they started learning in the Russian military just how insufficient their reserves are. And from the first days of war, I would watch the news and the reports, and the Russian soldiers would complain that with arms from World War II, you know? So I don't know if they were just using those up first or what, but they didn't think they're gonna have to fight so much and so long. They said 3 days initially, so I feel like there's, they can tell on the news about the Nazis or chem labs or things like that. They can make up all the things like that, but those are just outrageously ridiculous. And the only reason Putin and Russia calls them Nazis is because they want to be nationalists. They want to be an independent nation. They want to be a sovereign nation, sovereign from Russia, independent from Russia. And they are offended by that because they considered themselves brotherly nation, and you know, they were once, Ukraine was once under Soviet Union, which is now Russia, Kremlin, their capital. So I feel like they can say what they want, but their actions speak louder than words. So that's how I perceive it.
Yeah, it got really bad for Russia, especially in the start of the war. They've been just losing, and losing, manipulating their own people to think that they're winning, when in reality they aren't. It got so bad to the point where they actually did a draft, and whoever tried to escape the draft either got executed or got arrested in Russia. So yeah, it's really bad for them.
Yeah.
See, how do you feel about President Zelensky's efforts to receive aid in the war?
He's doing what he can, receiving officials and representatives from other nations, and he looks tireless in that. And he even traveled here into the United States to receive aid. His efforts are there. He went fighting for his country, and not just because he's the president and that's his country, but because his people, they said there's no going back. There's no friendly relationships with this nation. They took Crimea. They're coming from the east. There's no turning back. We might die knowing that they're not part of NATO. They are a weaker country, smaller, weaker country in all aspects, but they are not willing to live under the rule of what once was called the evil empire. They will not live under the manipulation of Kremlin, of Putin and his whoever he sends to Kiev to manipulate and to make things happen their way, the way they want it in Kremlin, which is run by Putin mostly. So.
Well, as an extension of that, how do you feel Putin would react in the event that they do lose the war?
I don't know. He's not someone you can guess easily. You can say he was crazy enough to start the war, and he was misled by his advisors, thinking they could win it in 3 days. And they had the capabilities and they were prepared adequately, but they weren't. So, but he's not stable enough necessarily, or reasonable enough to predict him, and he's not absolutely insane and deranged either, you know. I don't think he's gonna as some commentators say, oh, that he will nuke Ukraine or this or that. And he's definitely not Russian with those things. I know his media is threatening things, and once in a while they'll drive their nuclear warhead, the missile, for maintenance, or just show off through the city somewhere, makes it on the news to show their might or so. But he's definitely not, he himself is not saying anything of that, of such. So he will make up an excuse, and just like Syria and Georgia, I mean, he didn't win the whole nation of Georgia. He got some parts, he got what he wanted, he weakened the nation, and he moved on. And he will survive it. You know, it will hurt his pride, but I don't feel like he's gonna nuke Ukraine or something like that.
Especially when he knows how, you know, how everyone else will react.
Right. It will affect definitely not just Ukraine. If that comes to that, it will be all nations against him completely if he does that. So I think he will find a way to get through it and live with the shame and despise that he has already. But it doesn't seem to bother him as much either. You know, he just moves on to the next thing. He has projects, he has ideas, you know, so.
How do you feel about the current efforts there is to deter Putin from escalating the war, and about the efforts that was to prevent him from starting in the first place, such as limiting trade, kicking him out of the national economy, national banking system, and all that?
Yeah, I feel like our effort were definitely insufficient. You know, we took sanctions off of him a few years ago, so he knew it was his green light. He will do what he wants. So definitely, because of the West politics, there's back and forth due to elections, and something gave him the green light to go and attack Ukraine. So it was insufficient, and at this time, I feel like the efforts are, you know, they're loud but ineffective. Everybody's supporting Ukraine, and they have been sending aid, and I think they're just now getting their heavy machinery and things of that sort, but I feel like they're just insufficient. It's been a year of war, and it's not the normal war. They destroy cities, towns, villages to the point of there will be no rebuilding. You know, they don't just come and take out the Nazis in the labs, for example, because they say that is the problem now. They destroy everything, and they steal and rob. They will come through the villages, they will take the cars, they will take their washing machines, and they take their ceramic toilets and things like that, because lots of parts of Russia haven't seen anything like that. You know, Russia's big. Moscow is not Russia. Moscow is got everything, but most of Russia is not taken care of well. So, but their people are sent to fight in Ukraine, and from the Ukrainian influencers and some of the pastors that I follow, they say, you know, that people tell them and say, who allowed you to live like that? You have comforts in a house. You have, you know, a washing machine, a dishwasher, or this. They haven't even seen things like that. So they load it up and they take it back to their homes. But they destroy everything they leave behind. And lives are nothing. Their civilian lives mean nothing to them. So it's I'm still like shocked that the whole world sees it and nothing's actually done to stop it. You know, no plane was provided, no planes were provided to Ukraine, nothing to take down the planes that used to bomb Ukraine cities and infrastructures and bridges and such things like that. Nothing of substance to make this war stop. And there's definitely a lot of talk, a lot of support, and I know that Europe took on many refugees, about 3 or 5 million Ukrainian refugees, and that's, you know, Ukraine is so grateful, but it's just not enough to stop the war, to kick the invaders out of the land and stop the utter destruction. As a Ukrainian, it's hard to watch, and I feel like it has taken a toll on my health overall, and talking to my family members and who were there, my parents. It takes a toll because you're helpless, you can't do anything, you can't fight, you can't go over there. They want soldiers, they don't need more people that they would need to help in during war times. But it's just nothing is being done that's effective. Like, yes, they get victories here and there, little ones, but it's been a year, or just a little bit over a year, of this brutal war and destruction and pain and heartache and suffering, and it just, I'm still always can't comprehend how, you know, not enough nations step up and say this, enough of this. And, you know, looking into history, and when Soviet Union fell apart and Ukraine became independent, the US President signed an agreement with Ukraine and Russia, and I believe Great Britain and Germany. I don't remember if Germany was part of it, but Great Britain and Russia were in it for sure, and the US, that Ukraine was to give back to Russia, the former Soviet Union, all of its weapons, its plane, and supposedly Russia, United States, Great Britain would protect should anyone attack Ukraine. But when Russia itself attacked Ukraine, it just, even though United States and Great Britain right away, I mean, they were supportive verbally, it's just insufficient to stop the bloodshed, to stop the destruction. So it's, overall, I'm disappointed. I understand it's more complex, and there's a lot going on in Europe as well, but it's hard to watch.
Do you feel that if we were to give them heavy machine, Russia would see that as a direct attack in the event that Ukraine does use it on Russian soil?
No, I don't think they know what they're doing. They know they're not supposed to be invading a neighboring country. And I don't think they will directly attack the United States. They can threaten, they can talk, but I don't know if I don't feel like they want a third world war. I mean, they're young people and they're soldiers. They don't want to fight most of the time. There was thousands and thousands of young men that escaped during that draft you mentioned, and they ran, and they're hiding, and they're looking for reasons not to join. And you know, when you interview, I follow a channel that they interview Russian citizens, and the older population there for the war. Now they are the ones that probably won't be sent to fight, but young people, oftentimes they don't want to answer questions on TV, put their face about their opinions, because they don't want to be arrested, and they say it. They say, what's your thought about the war in Ukraine, or about Putin as leader, and they don't want to speak. They don't want to say on camera what their thoughts are. because they know the situation. While the older population, they just they believe what the news tells them on TV. Young people, they're on social media. They have different channels and ways of getting information, so they're not limited just to a TV station or a few TV stations. So, and they know what's happening. They know that this is not gonna turn out well for them. They don't want to fight. They don't want to support this war, but they have no choice. Once they're drafted, they have to go, or they go to jail. So they go to fight. Yeah, I don't see how it will continue. I mean, I don't know. You never guess. I never would have thought it would continue for a year. Just thought there was somebody will step up and say, and there's always somebody stronger than the bully. There has to be a good guy with that can put a bully away, but just seems to be not the case at this time. So we wait for some kind of turnaround and to bring an end to the war.
Okay. Do you feel that it is too late to solve things peacefully with Russia?
Oh yes. I don't see anything peacefully. I think it's gonna have to be that not just, it could be telling Putin that giving him time to retreat, or else, which I don't have idea what it would be or what it would take, but at this point, Ukraine's not going to talk. Ukraine's not going to negotiate. Ukraine lost too much, and they will not give up any land, or they're motivated to fight till the end, fight until they get their land back, fight until they get Crimea, and there will be no talking for them. And if it's going to be a talking, it's only for a time until they recoup to be able to get their land back. But I don't see Ukraine being willing to negotiate. From the sentiment that I'm getting from family and relatives and the people that I keep in touch with on the internet, I don't see them wanting to resolve things peacefully. It's either Russia peacefully retreats, and which I don't see them doing. Something's going to have to take place to where they will not want to fight anymore and leave. So,
are you familiar with NATO's Article 5?
Not very close. Is that the one? If
okay. NATO Article 5 states an attack on one is an attack on all.
Right.
Do you think they will enact that part of the treaty if Ukraine does join NATO?
If Ukraine joins NATO, I think so, absolutely. But it just, it takes years for them to join NATO, and they approved the application when the war started, in an effort to show unity with Ukraine in a sense, or support for Ukraine. But it takes years for them to actually join. It's not an easy process, but they don't have years. I think a few more years and there will be nothing left of Ukraine, nothing to rebuild. That's the way they're going. They're destroying everything in their path. So.
Okay. Do you feel that NATO is afraid of China and Russia's allies joining in the fight if they intervene? Because Russia has a similar pact with China and some other countries, to the extent where an attack on one is an attack on all. Do you think NATO fears World War III by directly joining them?
Well, I don't know. I'm not familiar with, you know, all the capabilities of NATO, but I believe that Europe, and particularly NATO or not, they should, I mean, and they are. Poland is very alarmed, you know, because from what I hear, Poland is next on the list, and the Balkans or the Finland, the areas that were part of Soviet Union at one point. So, and they are part of NATO, and so if they get attacked on Poland, then the West will have to take more acute measures to stop Putin. And China is so unpredictable. They can be friends with Russia until it suits them, but I don't see it. They are just as flimsy as Russia itself. You know, they do not keep their word. So if it's not going to be profitable to them, I don't think they will join. So I think they form treaties when it suits them only. So whatever China says, it tells to Russia, tells to anybody else. I don't think there's much trust in that any kind of alliance.
Well, as you said, that is true. NATO is, in fact, a nuclear alliance. So, if it were to get to that point, all, what 300-some nations, or the nations with nukes, would bombard Russia, or any other alliance country, country aligned with them. Yeah, China could maybe back out if that is the case, or they could support Russia if they feel that it will help them in a sense. But Russia right now is pretty much just the laughingstock of the world at this point.
Right.
They've been fighting Ukraine for a year, a small country. Yeah, they've received aid, but that aid wouldn't matter if the people of the country wasn't willing to fight for it.
Right. Absolutely right.
So Russia is, you know, being backed into a corner right now. They've already threatened their way into getting some aid removed from Ukraine, such as a no-fly zone, which would eliminate any and all aircraft within Ukraine's borders.
Okay.
But at this point, there's no excuse for them, really. They've just been making bad decisions, and them still fighting and still losing just goes to show how bad their country is.
Yeah. How bad his advisors are, and some of them went missing or died mysteriously and things like that already. So evil doesn't win at the end. You know, it takes time. I think I look back during the Holocaust and during World War II. It took time for the West for our nation, for the United States to get involved. We didn't want to hear it. We didn't want to believe it. Now, news traveled much slower back in the days. We didn't have internet and social media and YouTube and access to live coverage to things. But our politicians didn't want to get involved for a long time. And there was times that other countries turned away ships with refugees from Germany and such. So sometimes it just takes a while for the good to do what's right. But I believe that he will definitely break himself trying to break Ukraine eventually. And so I don't know how long it's gonna go on. It's hard to watch, and I never would have predicted that it'd go on for that long. But I know that it seems like Ukraine and Ukrainians, it doesn't matter if they all die. They're not gonna go back under the rule of Russia. So.
Yeah. I mean, it's been so long now. Is it gonna get to the point where everybody just says enough is enough and actually does something relevant, Like in World War II, we refused to join. mainly because we didn't want any involvement, and there was also an article to where we wouldn't intervene with anything involving Europe. Then an event happened, which was, I think, the sinking of a civilian ship with American citizens, British citizens, yada yada, and that prompted everyone to go crazy and just go in on Germany. I feel like that event is closest to happening as of right now, because I mean, they have one of the capital cities of Ukraine surrounded right now, and if something goes bad with that, it could spark the involvement of NATO directly. And also the point that you made about Poland being next, they've already stated that if anything happens with Poland, it's over.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's going to be the start of World War III if anything happens with Poland. I do feel Russia wouldn't try anything directly, but they will try to do something indirectly. So they would probably try to invade, maybe not directly invade, but force another country to invade, you know?
Like Belarus, is a proxy. Yes, well, Belarus is they are openly joined with, like, they're not hiding it. They are Russia's, I don't know, sibling, you can say, and their presidents, and I mean, if you listen to their president speak,
they're like a puppet.
He's a puppet. He's a puppet. And he will not say anything from himself, like any decisions. He's only allowed to say what Kremlin lets him say, and decisions. And he just babbles and says weird things, but because he doesn't make decisions himself. The decisions are made for him. That's now, if they use Belarus to go into Ukraine or Poland or such, I mean, now that might start World War III, because Belarus and Russia have a tighter knit relationship than China. And for example, Belarus is totally dependent on Russia. So now the people there's different people, obviously, that they know that their government's corrupt. They know their government is a puppet of Kremlin, and they want freedom and independence, but still what they have, their army and military is under Russia's influence.
Their protection resides with Russia.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. Final question. Do you think that the removal of Putin from power would change anything involving the war?
It's a tricky question. You would think it does. And you would think that everybody's just playing their part to, support him while he's alive. But I just think there's a few enough evil people around him, that they could take the lead. But you never know, you never know where it goes, how history could, turn out if he dies, whether somebody. But I know as a nation, Russia, and they're divided. There's the old population that supports their government no matter what, older generations, and there's the younger generation that they want Western values and possibilities and everything that freedom offers, and relationship with other nations. They know that they're secluded. They know that they're a laughingstock. Old people, I mean, there's wise people too, but in majority, they will live on what they have. They're used to having little, and they don't have anything to look forward to. Their life is almost over. The young people now, they want open borders. They want opportunities. They want diversity in all spheres, and that's been squashed by their current government. But you just, I feel like maybe it wouldn't take just Putin to die or something. There's a couple. Medvedev is his right hand. They've been cooking things together, so to say, for a long time, even when they rotated in being presidents, until Putin became okay. I think he made a law saying that he'll be the next president for so long or something of that sort. So definitely there's teamwork. I mean, if there wasn't a wall of people around him who are loyal to his ideas, I don't see how even he could invade and how he would have made it this far alive. Nobody took him out.
Yeah. History has shown older generation since the younger generation of war, and we have to pay for their mistakes.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
We have to sometimes correct their mistakes. They, seeing things differently and learning from history. So yeah.
Okay. I want to appreciate you for coming out to this interview, and the purpose of this interview was for a nationwide competition involving story maps, and my theme was covering the Russian and Ukrainian war while linking it to a citizen of Louisiana. So
okay.
I would like to formally thank you for coming out.
My pleasure.